Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayat Udirayet. Srinvatam Sakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hi abhadrani vidhunoti sihritsatam Nashtaprayesu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatir uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna devotees, we will continue the second chapter. So in the first chapter, we covered the definition of absolute truth, purpose of religion, and the first chapter also glorifies Srimad Bhagavatam, and there will be 6 questions asked by the sages to Srila Sutta Goswami, and they will be answered in the second chapter. So we are discussing the second chapter. So these are the 6 questions that were asked by the sages. The first two are, what is the highest good? Second is the second is essence of all scriptures. So the second chapter is answer to the second question, which is the entire chapter dedicated to devotion, divinity and devotion service, so which we are discussing now. And the first question's answer is given in 6th and 7th, which we discussed last week. What is the highest good for humanity at large? Is to basically develop love of God through pure devotion service or bhakti. And third question, which is, what is the purpose of Lord's appearance? That will be discussed in 34th verse. And and Purushavataras briefly are described in second chapter 30 to 33. Leela Avataras were described in third chapter. And where did religion take shelter after Krishna's disappearance? That will be discussed in third chapter. So those are the 6 questions by the sages. So the second chapter is in answers to a couple of the questions, in which Sutta Goswami first offers the obeisances to various personalities. Before beginning to address the questions by the sages, he first pays the obeisances. He pays the obeisances to the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami, who is the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also Naranarayan Rishi of Badrikashram and Narayana. So to all of them, just like what we have gone through in the beginning. So those are the prayers that will be offered by Sutta Goswami before speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. And immediately the second section is where he immediately answers the highest good. What is the highest good? Which is to perform unmotivated and uninterrupted bhakti for humanity at large. So that is addressed in 6th and 7th verses. Thereafter, the 8th to 15th verses of second chapter cover how it is only bhakti to be gained by one's prescribed duty. Whatever you work in life to lead your life, the only purpose is to gain bhakti. So in 6 and 7, the purpose of bhakti is mentioned, like unmotivated and uninterrupted bhakti. When it is performed, it will fully satisfy the heart. But jivas in the material world, they all have to work in this world to lead their lives. So how do they do their work? So the next immediate section answers it. You have to work following your prescribed duties, but the goal of that is bhakti. It has to develop taste for hearing and chanting. Whatever work you do, whether it is as Kshatriya or Sudra or Vaishya or Brahmana, whatever be your work, according to your Varna and Ashrama, if your work does not inspire you to be to the pastimes of to hear the pastimes of Lord, then your work is just a waste of time. Shramaya vai kevalam. So that's the overall summary, and we discussed a couple of verses. We'll complete that section today. And then in verses 16 to 21, how a person progresses in bhakti is given. What are the stages of bhakti? Well, it's a beautiful section. We'll go through that. And then finally, in very clear terms, Sutta Goswami speaks that Krishna is the only object of worship. We may not cover that section, but we'll try to cover the stages of bhakti and finish. Bhakti is to be gained by one's prescribed duties. So we already covered these two, obeisances and unmotivated, 6 and 7. So we'll quickly jump to 8th verse. Yeah, 8th and 9th is also 8, 9, 10 is also covered. So we discussed about Ramananda Raya Samvada in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks to Ramananda Raya and asks, what is the purpose of following, what is the purpose of life? Right? So Ramananda Raya answers at various levels. First is, he says, one has to perform his own dharma. He has to follow Varnashram dharma strictly. That was his. And Lord Chaitanya rejects that. Then he says about Swadharma Tyaga, which is to give up the fruits of one's action. Again, Lord is not very interested because there is no talk about devotion service there. So again rejects that. Then third, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, little better. Okay, one has to seek knowledge and ultimately perform bhakti. Again, that is not pure devotion service. And the next suggestion was Jnana Sunya Bhakti, which Lord Chaitanya accepts. Jnana Sunya Bhakti means bhakti not mixed with any jnana, especially mental speculation, no mental speculation. So which is what Lord accepts. Bhakti is the main element without which even Varnashrama is rejected. Right? So without it, there is no real value for anything else you perform. If bhakti is performed, even if you don't follow Varnashrama perfectly, which is perfectly all right. Right? So bhakti is the most essential ingredient. If it is there, anything will work. But if it is not there, even the best thing doesn't work. So that is there. Then let's quickly go through 1.2.9. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nardo adyoyopakalpate nardhasya dharmaikantasya kamolabhaya hi smitaha. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupation service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. So what does that mean? So basically, dharma, so the Chatur Purusharthas are dharma, artha, kama, moksha. In general, the only purpose of a person performs dharma is to acquire artha, means to gain the fruits of his action, prescribed duties. Once he gains the fruits, he employs them to enjoy in the material world, to happily live in this world, right? So happily enjoy the fruits of his work. And while enjoying this world, because the material world is not created to enjoy, right? So the whole creation was done such that it frustrates the conditioned soul. It's never going to satisfy the jiva. And so when he is frustrated, he will turn to moksha, liberation. So this is the uh, default road in which a jiva goes through. Dharma, he pursues dharma so that he can gain artha. Once he gains artha, he employs this to enjoy, that is kama. And when he is frustrated, he will go to the path of moksha or liberation. However, in this verse, it's very clearly called out, dharmasya hi apavargasya. Apavarga means the ultimate liberation. Right? Dharma should be performed for moksha. Dharma should be performed for moksha. So one is to be performed for 4. It should not be performed for ardha, not for material gain. And even if you gain some material as part of your performance of duties, you gain something, don't use that for sense gratification. Even if you gain, you will gain, but whatever you gain, don't use it in karma. Don't try to enjoy in this material, because ultimately it will frustrate you. So dharma, the only purpose is moksha. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Apavarga means ultimate liberation. Dharmasya hi apavarga. The only purpose of dharma is the ultimate liberation. If you gain some fruits, ardha, do not use that for kama. Okay. Yeah. And then we discussed about the various paths and what is the dharma in that path and what is the apavarga, or the goal of that path. So I'll not discuss this again. So today's verse 10. Let's go through that. Kamasya kamasya nendriya pritir labho jivet yavata जीवस्य तत्व जिज्ञासा नार्धो याश्चेह karma bhi. Can anybody read for me? Translation.
Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or a self preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's work.
Yeah. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be one's goal of one's work. Whatever one performs, it should never be used for sense gratification. Anything you gain in the material world, do not employ for sense gratification. According to our standards, we can look into each one of our life and see. It's basically a lesson to correct ourselves if we are not on this path. If we are trying to enjoy in this material world, that should be avoided. What one can desire, because you are in the material world, you can desire to maintain a healthy life or self-preservation. That is all right? Because you need a healthy life so that you can continue performing devotional service. So that is in line, it is anukul to bhakti. So nothing else should be goal of one's work. Whatever one performs, whatever gains he gains, so nothing else should be the goal of life. Especially, it should not be sense gratification. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at the material world in today's day and time, everything is directed towards sense gratification, meaning how you can enjoy the best out of your senses, see the best things, or visit the best places to enjoy, right? Like that, in every, eat the best food, or the restaurants, or everything is, the whole civilization directed so that your senses are thoroughly satisfied, right? But such a life is in absolute waste, because it will direct you away from the ultimate purpose of life, or the inquiry about the absolute truth. in politics or philanthropy, altruism, in every aspect, if you see, the very tint of sense gratification is ever increasingly prominent in the current day and age. But the Bhagavatam says that one should not live for sense gratification. One should satisfy the senses only in so much as required for self-preservation and not for sense gratification. Because the body is made of senses which also require a certain amount of satisfaction, there are regulated directions for satisfaction of such senses. But the senses are not meant to be for unrestricted enjoyment. For example, marriage or the combination of a man with a woman is necessary for progeny, but it is not meant for sense enjoyment. Yeah. So, because there is no end to sense gratification, right? The more you fulfill, the more it wants. The hunger for enjoyment is never going to be satisfied. The more you have, the more you want. The better you have, the bettermost you want. So there is no end to it. So there is no end. It's an endless pursuit. So all these verses. So up to now, we complete this section where one has to perform prescribed duties so that you can develop taste for hearing Vasudeva Kadharuchi, right? To hear and glorify the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna. Yeah. So now we go on to the next section, 11th verse. So yeah, this is stages of bhakti. This is a preliminary verse, but then next verses are all pointing to the stages of bhakti. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sabjate. It's a very famous verse, right? We all hear about this. Can anybody read the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan.
Yeah. So what is this non-dual substance? Absolute truth, right? Absolute truth is realized as Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. These are the three aspects or three perspectives of absolute truth. So the intelligent will accept all the three aspects, but the unintelligent only accept one aspect. Right? Some people are so adamant, they say there is nothing except Brahman. Brahman is the only absolute truth. But we don't do that. We accept all the three, but we accept the superiority of Bhagavan, right? Because Bhagavan includes Brahman and Paramatma also. That is the reason we accept Bhagavan as the ultimate goal or the ultimate absolute truth. Brahman is Bhagavan's effulgence, right? Paramatma is localized aspect of Bhagavan, right? It's like Brahman is, sun is one in one place. The effulgence of sun is everywhere. So Brahman is like that effulgence. And if you keep, say, 10 pots of water on the floor, the sun will reflect in each pot. So that is like Paramatma aspect of the absolute. Okay? You can say this is the sun, right? You can see the part of water and see the reflection of the sun and say, hey, this is the sun. Nothing else is the sun. This is the sun. You can say that. That is also correct. But that's only a partial. You have to see the source of it. So we look at the source. So Bhagavan is the ultimate definition of absolute truth. So another good example in this consideration is, I give you a glass of milk. And you can approach with various senses, right? For example, somebody sees with his eyes and can experience. What can he experience? You can say in the glass of milk, the glass of milk is white in color, right? So that only he can understand the color of the milk. and maybe you can also, now you touch it, you touch the glass of water.
Battery 90%. Connected to.
If you touch the glass of water, sorry, glass of milk, you get the experience of whether it is hot or cold also now, right? So that's an additional experience that you get about the glass of milk. Now, if you, no, you, so now when you approach with your tongue, you get the absolute benefit of the milk, correct? You will know the color of the milk, you will know the taste of milk, you know whether it is hot or cold. You get the entire experience that is partially given the other experience, other perceptions as well. So similarly, when absolute truth can also be represented by Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan, the full experience of absolute truth, the personal experience of absolute truth, his qualities and all those can be experienced by a person who approaches him in the Bhagavan aspect. Right? Bhagavan gives you all the other aspects, and also helps you realize Ananda aspect also. Right? Brahman only gives you Sat, gives you perception of the Sat aspect, how the Bhagavan is eternal. I am eternal and Bhagavan is eternal. That is the only aspect you would realize, Sat. And regarding the Paramatma relation, one will realize Sat and Chit, the knowledge that he is the Paramatma is the source of everything. Right? Kshirodak Sai Vishnu, who is residing in the hearts of all, he is the driving force behind everything. So that you would realize in Paramatma knowledge. And Bhagavan aspect is the ultimate relation. It gives you the absolute. Now with Bhagavan, you can have loving exchanges. So you will experience Ananda aspect as well. Right? So that is the complete relation of absolute truth. Jnanis who try to approach absolute truth through mental speculation, they will realize Brahma. Astanga yogi who meditates on the Paramatma within the heart, he will realize Paramatma aspect. A bhakti yogi who worships the Supreme Lord and accepts his form and qualities, he will realize Bhagavan aspect of the absolute truth. Now the stage is Tachadradhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pasyanti chatmana grihitaya. Yeah, please read. Anybody?
Yeah, I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So the seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realize that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard, the Vedanta Sutra, Vedanta Shruti.
Vedanta Shruti, yeah. So now we defined the absolute truth and the three aspects of it, and how to approach that. There are two aspects, jnana and vairagya, which will help, but ultimately the performance of devotion service, rendering devotion service in terms of what he has heard, means by following the scriptures. Vedaishcha sarvam ahameva vedya, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, which means the purpose of study of all the Vedas is to know me. So in this way, by practicing devotion service, rendering devotion service means practically performing like Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, chanting, Atmanivedam, all these, when you perform actively devotion service to the Supreme Lord, right? Based on what is heard from Vedanta, Vedic scriptures, the conclusions of Vedanta, of Vedic scriptures, then one realizes the absolute truth. Right? So, yeah. And every other realization is partial. Only bhakti gives full realization. Bhagavan relation includes every other relation. Just like when one drinks milk, he experiences everything else as well. Right? He knows the taste, he knows the color, he knows whether it is hot or cold, whether it is sweet or not. Everything is realized by direct experience. Yeah. Other processes like karma and yoga are dependent on also bhakti. Like if you want to succeed in other paths also, you need the help of bhakti for achieving success. But bhakti is the only process which is independent. For example, every other process has a dependence on, you don't need to perform karma to really perfect in bhakti. If your heart is fully into bhakti, you can just perform bhakti and achieve perfection. You don't need to perform any other yogas now, any like nishkam karma yoga. You don't need to do any of that. Bhakti is the means, bhakti is the goal for bhakti. For every other path, the goal is generally different from the process. Right? You perform yoga asanas, you realize Paramatma. And then when you realize Paramatma, again you have to actually perform bhakti to please the Paramatma. So the process changes in other paths, but in Bhakti Yoga, it remains the same. As stated in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature, the Supreme Person is realized by devotional service, which is backed by full knowledge and detachment from material association. We have already discussed the point of the devotion service is followed by knowledge and detachment from material association. So, but when you perform Bhakti Yoga, naturally detachment from material association naturally happens. You don't need to separately endeavor for it. Janayati asu vairagyam jnanaitim ahaitukim. So when you perform Bhakti Yoga without any expectation, jnana and vairagya will follow. So you don't need to separately endeavor for them. As Brahman and Paramatma realization are imperfect realizations of the absolute truth, so the means of realizing Brahman and Paramatma, that is the paths of jnana and yoga, are also imperfect means of realizing absolute truth. They are not perfect means. Devotion service, which is based on foreground of full knowledge combined with detachment from material association, which is fixed by the oral reception of the Vedanta Shruti, is the only perfect method by which seriously inquisitive student can realize the absolute truth. Okay? So we can all easily follow. And detachment from material association, primarily following the four regulative principles, will save 90% of the problem. Right? And then on top of that, you can sincerely chant every day in the mornings, and in your capacity render some devotion service in the temple. So that will give you complete detachment.
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji. So can you please scroll up? The Paramatma and Brahma realizations are imperfect realizations.
Mhm.
I'm trying to understand why that use imperfect is used. So you the Paramatma realization and Brahman realization are the slow process, but eventually they have to come to bhakti to reach the abode. But are those are imperfect or just a slow process, slow realizations? Can we say that those are slow realizations, or do we need to say imperfect?
Because the goal is incomplete relation of absolute truth, the path is also considered as imperfect because it's not perfect for this age for sure. Right? It's imperfect because there is lot of work but very less result. Perfect process means it should be optimal. Right? You have a very short life in this Kali Yuga. So what is the perfect process for it? Chanting the holy name all the time. Chant. That is going to give you the ultimate result. Because Kali Yuga means already we are degraded. People who are coming here are already having a lot of, it's like already an emergency. If you're in emergency, you are in a slow medication. What is that a good process?
Okay, got it.
In emergency, you need a quick solution. You have to get out. Right? You need a high power dose. So that is Bhakti Yoga, especially chanting of the holy name, chanting of the Maha Mantra. Right? It's called Maha Mantra. It's the king of all mantras. Tarak mantra for this age.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
That's why Narada in the later chapters, Narada Muni says, even though there are so many problems in this age, right, just by chanting the holy name, one can achieve the highest perfection, which was not achieved in other ages.
Hmm.
There is nothing, So, and like demigods are praying so that they can be born in the families of devotees in the Kali Yuga, so that there is nothing, no better process to realize absolute truth than this process, right?
Yeah.
So that is why it is considered like that.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare.
Prabhu, one question. As you're explaining, a few of these points we had already discussed in Nectar of Devotion and Nectar of Instruction. So, how should we understand, Prabhu? So, whatever is given in those books versus what is in Bhagavatam, I mean, is it all taken from the Bhagavatam and then Rupa Goswami has explained this? That is the way we understand.
Yes.
Okay.
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the goal of the whole book is, so Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses, right? And also Bhakti is spread all over the scriptures in various places. So they are the Goswamis, especially Sadhu Goswamis, they have summarized everything so that it becomes easy and digestible for us. Right? Somebody has to put that effort. So on the order of Lord Chaitanya and with the blessings of Lord Chaitanya, after hearing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed himself, Sanatana Goswami, for 60 days in Varanasi, and he met Rupa Goswami and he transferred all the knowledge to them. And now he encouraged them to actually go and find, recover the places of Vrindavana, re-establish the temples, and write bhakti literature so that in the future generations, for the next 10,000 years, people will benefit from your literature. So that's why in the Sadhu Goswami Ashram we read Nana Sastra Vichara Naika Nipuna. Nipuna means they are experts who have thoroughly analyzed all the scriptures. Nana Sastra Vichara Naika Nipuna. Sadharma Samstapaka. So they established the ultimate principles for living. They have given up their own, high living for the benefit of the people who will come in the future. And they were living under various trees every single day. No question of their own consideration or happiness. They were just doing like that for the welfare of humanity at large. So they did all this work. They almost basically they especially Jiva Goswami and all, they refer like thousands of scriptures and put everything in summary for us.
So the way to understand is first someone should read Nectar of Instruction, Nectar of Devotion, and then when they come to Bhagavatam, they get a full perspective.
Yeah,
of
because now you know the essence. So there are two aspects, right? Sadhana and sadhya, right? The goal, sadhya, is absolute truth, okay? And you need proper sadhana to achieve it. So the practices are summarized in Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion. So once you learn them, you can easily, your convictions only will increase by reading more scriptures with similar details. Now you can fine tune your knowledge already. It's already established. Now you can also realize how perfect the acharyas were, especially Goswamis, and how intelligently they compiled all these scriptures by pulling the essence of all the scriptures.
Understood. Thank you.
Atah pumbir dvijasreshta varnashrama vivagasa swanustitasya dharmasya Samsiddhir haritoshanam. Samsiddhir haritoshanam. Yes, please read, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. O best among twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to the caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead.
Yeah. So the highest perfection one can achieve by performing one's prescribed duties, one's own according to prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste division, which is varnashrama dharma, in orders of life, varna and ashrama, is to please the personality of Godhead. Okay? So in the previous verse, it was mentioned that similar verse, right? Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Means dharma should be performed for apavarga, which is the ultimate liberation. A similar line of thought here. So the highest perfection one can achieve by performing prescribed duties, according to the one's prescribed duties, according to varna and ashrama, is to please the personality of God. He should, by his work, because the work is done for this personality of God. Work is not done for our satisfaction. We think I'm working and so I am making more money or things. No, it's actually for pleasure of Lord. That is how you should see. Everything we do, we should see, am I pleasing the Lord by helping this devotee or by doing this service? It's not about your purification. It's about pleasing Lord. It is part of it that you will get purified as a result of it. But your goal is pleasing the Supreme Lord. When you say pleasing the Supreme Lord, it also means pleasing the devotees. Right? It's all inclusive, right? Especially when you please an advanced devotee, like for example, Harivilash Maharaj. We do some service and please Maharaj, it's going to purify us. So that's how it is. It's to please the personality of Godhead. Any work we do, that is the goal. The purpose of Varnashram Dharma is to please the personality of Godhead. Varnashram Dharma has to be followed in cooperative spirit. So, Varna and Ashrama, it's not an artificial division or a division to give superiority for certain division of people. Like Kshatriya cannot feel they are superior to, say, Sudras or, say, for Vaishyas. Brahmanas should not artificially feel that they are superior to everybody. They are the highest caste people. They should not have such feelings. That's not the purpose. Because everybody is part and parcel of the society, and everybody's contributions are important. Just like in the body, you need every part. Right? You need digestive system, you need hands, legs. Every part is equally important. Otherwise, the body collapses. Right? So similarly, all the divisions of society have to come together in a cooperative spirit, so that they can ultimately please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot dominate over others. Everyone has a role to play ultimately for the satisfaction of the Lord. So, and how can this happen? Especially when there is a right leader, political leader or the king. If he follows dharma properly, then the entire society can function in a cooperative spirit. So that's why Lord was very pleased when Yudhishthira Maharaj became the king. Because he knows very well when Yudhishthira becomes the king, there will be natural cooperation between different sections of the society. When there is natural cooperation, then the goal of that cooperation is to please the Supreme Lord. Right? Naturally, when there is good cooperation, everybody progresses spiritually. Yeah. When the aim of life, that is relation of the absolute truth, is missed by the too much attachment for Indriya Priti, for sense gratification, as already discussed herein before, The institution of varnashram is utilized by selfish men to pose an artificial predominance over the weaker section. This is what happened in the beginning of Kali Yuga. What happened? Brahmanas consider themselves to be superior for everybody else. And they were doing karma kanda. They were focused on karma kanda of the Vedic scriptures. And they actually used karma kanda to perform Vedic rituals. And in the process, they were killing animals. So animal slaughter was the most prominent thing happening at the beginning of Kali Yuga. To stop that, which avatar came? To stop
Buddha.
animal slaughter.
Buddha.
Yeah, Lord Buddha came. Lord Buddha is an incarnation, and he taught ahimsa paramo dharma. And when he was preaching to the people, people were saying, hey, what you are saying is against Vedas. Karma Kanda is part of Vedas, and we are following Vedas. Vedas is the highest authority. If you are preaching anything outside of Vedas, we don't follow it. Then he said, I reject Vedas. That is why Buddhist religion is primarily atheistic. Because Buddha, though he is God himself, he has to come to establish this this Buddhist philosophy, where he basically had to it's a temporary fix. It's not it's an apad dharma, so that people stop animal slaughter. Right. So that was the thing. In the Kali Yuga, the age of pearl, this artificial predominance is already current. But the saner section of people know it well, that the divisions of castes and orders of life are meant for smooth social intercourse and high thinking self-relation, and not for any other purpose. Here in the statement of Bhagavatam is that the highest aim of life, or the highest perfection of institution of varnashram, is to cooperate jointly for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. If there is no cooperation, there is no way we can satisfy the Lord, right? Anyway, if we are not cooperated, we cannot please the Lord, because our actions will not please the Lord. So this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:13. Chaturvarnam maya system gunakarma vibhagasa tasya kartaram abhimam vidya kartaram avyayam. How Krishna says how he has created the four divisions. And although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being the unchangeable. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Srotavyah Kirtitavyascha Jeyah Pujascha Nityada. Yeah, it's another very beautiful verse. Can anybody read?
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees.
Yes. Tasmad ekena manasa. It's single point of attention. One pointed mind, attention of the mind. Right? What do you should do? Bhagavan Sattvatam Padi. To approach the Supreme Lord with one pointed attention and do what? Srotavyaha Kirtitavyascha Jeyaha Pujas. Hear about the Supreme Lord, glorify the Supreme Lord, remember the Supreme Lord, and worship the Supreme Lord, who is the protector of the devotees. Sattvatam Pati. Sattvatam Pratihi means protector of the devotees. Sattvatam means devotees. Patihi means protector. So, the goal of everything is to please the Supreme Lord. Varnashram Dharma, anything you perform, all the prescribed duties, everything you perform is to please the Supreme Lord. Okay? With one pointed attention, one should constantly hear, glorify, remember, worship. So this is the constant thing one should do. This is the only way to get out of this. This is the way to achieve success, right? Or the material existence. See, Bhagavatam so clearly defines this principle, okay? Bhakti.
Prabhu, sorry, one question. Sometimes I get confused with this word glorify. What is the definition of glorifying the Lord, Prabhu? Sometimes I feel maybe I'm not glorifying the Lord. Can you please put things in perspective?
For example, when you are talking about the Lord, like for example, now we are discussing about the Lord, we glorify the qualities of Lord, like how Lord is very kind to his devotees, like that. How, for example, how he became the chariot driver for his own servant or his devotee, right? How he protected Prahlad Maharaj. That is a glorification of the Lord. Glorification of the magnanimity of the Lord, or various qualities of the Lord. Right? So when you glorify, or the prayers of any of these Queen Kumti, or they're all glorification of the Lord. What happens when you glorify the Lord? What happens?
You feel happy.
Yes, real satisfaction. But generally in the middle world, what happens with everybody? What do they glorify?
Get puffed up.
Yes. Then the whole idea is how to get out of your own self-absorption. When you glorify the Lord, naturally you are not. There is no time for glorifying yourself, right? The time is there. Yeah. So the whole idea is to direct our consciousness. We are like so absorbed materially in this material world, correct? Always think about how I can enjoy this material world better. Right? That is because that's coming from so many lifetimes. It's not like this lifetime thing. Right? Constantly hear about Lord. That changes your uh, mental situation. Right? Otherwise, you want to think about yourself, how you can enjoy various things. That is the way mind naturally flows towards. But when you constantly hear, I know some devotees always chant. Why they do that? When do that, naturally you're trying to remember Lord. So that is the third aspect. Remember the Lord. Worship the Lord. Whenever you have the opportunity in the morning, worship the Supreme Lord. Or whenever you enter a place, you pay obeisances to devotees, and so that's also kind of worship. By doing all these things, you will please the Lord. Again, it's not your effort that will make you advanced. It is ultimate. It's always the mercy of Lord through His devotees that will help us, purify ourselves and advance spiritually. We do everything so that we'll please the devotees, we'll please the Supreme Lord. Always thinking about others, right? So we're always self-absorbed. Now we are trying to shift to the others, especially devotees. Want to serve them in one way or the other. That's how when devotees cooperate and come together and hear together, glorify together the Lord, God is so pleased. Because especially if you're those people who are very close, there won't be any envy. Especially when Krishna is the center, right? So when you have such a wonderful relation between us, Lord is so pleased, very happy.
Thank you, bro.
Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time. If he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers. Right? This is what happens. I remember, like when I go to my hometown, there will always be like big banners of some politician, local politicians, big banners with big pictures, standing, walking, or as if they are very important. Anyway, you can't escape seeing them. You will have to see them, right? It's all like artificially giving some name and fame to people. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man. Right? Name and fame is what? Is given by people only. If nobody recognizes, there is no name or fame. And most people recognize out of envy. They want to be in that position, but they cannot. And so they just glorify so that they can get something from them. Right? Such kind of thing is very temporary. Because, how long will that name or fame will last? Right? As soon as he comes out of his position, nobody even goes to his place. That is how short it is. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. It doesn't bring good to anyone, either to that person or for us. It's just pushing one's false ego. Right? It also takes you away from God. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, meaning there may be some temporary name and fame, but there are no permanent effects. Right? Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. It's a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Lord, who has created everything and manifested before us. The tendency to glorify others or here, others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being. That will bring real happiness. Right? So, if you want to be really happy, glorify the real object of glorification, which is the Supreme Lord. Any other kind of glorification is not going to give any permanent results. With one pointed attention, meaning nothing else. Very clear. Ekeha Kurunandana, just like Bhagavad Gita says. Ekena manasa, tasmat ekena manasa. Jada anudhyasina yukta karma grandhi nibandanam chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim. Katarathim means the taste for hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, please read.
With sword in hand. Go ahead, Mataji, please.
With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message?
Intelligent man, right? Cut through the binding knots of reactionary work. If you want to cut the binding knots of reactionary work, what you have to do? Remember the personality of God. Don't remember about yourself and your goals. Remember the Lord. When you do that, it will cut the binding knots of reactionary work. Meaning you are not anymore intertwined in the karmic reactions of the material existence. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? Karma Grandhi Nivadhanam. Karma Grandhi means the knot of material existence. Remembering the Lord cuts through the knots of reactionary work. So for this, we need to hear attentively Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any Krishna Karunamrita or any of these wonderful literature of Lord Krishna. So it will, if you hear attentively, it cuts the knots of reactionary work. Because it's very, very tightly bound and we have no way out. But just by hearing effectively, it will cut that knot. What is material knot is basically the taste for enjoying the material existence. Okay? So this fifth canto, fifth verse, fifth chapter, 8th verse says this. Pumsa striya mituni bhavametam ayor mito vidyagandim ahu ato griha kshetra sudha virvittaye janasya mohoyam aham mameti. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. We are now right here because of this attraction. Right? If you are a dog, you are attracted to a female dog. If you are a cockroach, you are attracted to a female cockroach. So that is how it is designed. Can you imagine like how it's a very temporary attraction, the material existence that creates this. and you are attracted only to that particular species, not attracted to anything else. See how illusionary it is. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. Very tough person. We are not there. I mean, it's so difficult to be detached. Yeah, the hope is we study Bhagavatam, hear it every day, and naturally develop distaste for all these lower things. The contact of the spiritual spark with material elements creates a knot which must be cut if one wants to be liberated from the actions and reactions of fruitive work. The liberation from material bondage is therefore a byproduct of devotion service. So liberation from material bondage naturally happens because you develop attachment to Krishna. Naturally, you will not have any more taste for other lower things. So automatically those things will go down. Therefore, any sensible man who is above the average man with a poor fund of knowledge must constantly remember the personality of Godhead by hearing about him, glorifying him, remembering him, and by worshipping him always without cessation. That is the perfect way of devotion service. The Goswamis of Vrindavana, who were authorized by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to preach the Bhakti cult, rigidly followed this rule and made immense literature of transcendental science for our benefit. They have chalked out ways for all classes of men in terms of the different castes and orders of life in pursuance of the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and similar other authoritative scriptures. So this is on the order of Chaitanya. We just discussed that. Right? So now is a very interesting section. The 14 stages of bhakti we'll discuss in the next few verses. Let's begin with 16th verse. Susrusoh sraddhadhanasya vasudeva kadarichi syan mahat sevaya vipra punyatirthan nisevanat. Yeah, please read the translation.
O twice-born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great services is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva.
How do you develop taste for hearing the messages of Vasudeva? It is by the performance of Mahat Seva. Susrusoha means engaged in hearing. Shraddhadhanasya means with that taste, you need that Shraddha to hear. Right? How would, to what? To Vasudeva Katha, which means the Katha of Vasudeva. To develop the faith to hear the pastimes of Lord Hari, what do you need? Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra. Means you have to perform Mahat Seva. Means to perform service to the pure devotees. So that affinity, Ruchi develops to perform, to hear the pastimes of Vasudeva Katha. Yeah. Which is, who are these Mahat Sevaya? Punya Tirtha Nishevana. Means they were already cleansed of all the vices. Vipraha Punya Tirtha, which means those who are cleansed of all vices. If you perform service to pure devotees, that will develop Vasudeva Kadarichi in your heart. You will develop the faith to hear about Vasudeva Kadarichi. We know about Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anadha Nivriti, Nishta, Bhava, Ruchi, Prema. Ruchi, Bhava, and Prema, finally. So those are the stages we hear about. But before even one develops Shraddha, right? We start with this Shraddha here in this verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti says there are even two more stages before this. The first is Satan Kripa. Satan Kripa means causeless mercy of a devotee. We all came to devotion service not by our own endeavor, isn't it? Somebody told us, hey, in this temple there is nice summary of Bhagavad Gita class, or something like that. Or somebody gave you a book on Krishna consciousness. For example, I received a Bhagavad Gita, not Bhagavad Gita, Path of Perfection as a student in college in Vizag. Somebody from Sagar Nagar is a place near us. From there, there was a temple there. A college student came and gave me On the Path to Path of Perfection, that book. I remember very well. I reading that in my third year engineering. So that actually gave me a lot of conviction that time, but I haven't pursued. But that worked as a seed. When I studied my master's, that's when that seed sprouted. I mean, there was some desire to learn more about it. So Satan Kripa, it all begins with the causeless mercy of. There is no need for him to go out and distribute that book, right? But he did that anyway, right? Similarly, like today, for example, we go and distribute prasadam, right? Harilash Maharaj. You think there is no effect of it? It's just another social service. No, it is actually these Satan Kripa. Those, the Saturday Sankirtan that we do, the entrance desk people who talk to the devotees. This is all Satan Kripa, or distributing food for life, right? Or free food truck. This is Satan Kripa, causeless mercy of devotees, right? Without that, most people will not get that qualification to actually participate for the devotion service, book distribution, and all these things we discussed. Right? So that is Satan Kripa. Right? We all come by mercy. We are not like Jignasu or that kind of people who are very thoughtful, wise, and thinking about what is the purpose of life. And so we are trying to. There will be very few such people, but most of us are mercy cases. Meaning, somebody was kind enough to actually talk about, develop some kind of a taste, right? By giving prasadam or books or talking to us nicely, whatever, some good experience, and their prayers, right? So Satan Kripa is the most crucial aspect. And when, for example, you give them a book and they feel obliged, okay, let me give some money, they'll give you some money, right? So that's their donation. So that is a Mahat Seva, because they are doing out of their own free will. And they sometimes invited by a devotee friend, they would come and visit the temple. They would make the endeavor to visit the temple, even if it takes, they could have spent for some other thing, but they make an effort to visit the temple and hear about what is happening there. So that is Mahat Seva. Then when you please a devotee, then Punyas Tirtha Nishevanath happen. Right? So there is a slight devotion service performed by them. They paid obeisances in the temple. They offered dandavats. They read somewhere Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So there is some Punya Tirtha Nishevanath that happens at the time. Right? So once they do that, as soon as they touch the book or eat prasadam or talk to a devotee or say Hare Krishna, Shraddha develops in their heart. Okay? So through Mahat Seva, performance of some devotion service, by coming in contact with temple devotees, some faith is seeded in their heart. Okay? So now the stages are all known to us. When Shraddha develops, they now want to take shelter of a guru, a bona fide guru. Then they approach they hear more, and they take shelter of a bona fide guru, that is Guru Padashraya. Shraddha, Gurupada say, and then they will chant the holy name, Bhajana Kriya. Once they start bhajan, once they perform chanting and hearing, coming in contact with devotees, they will naturally develop eagerness to hear more and more about the Supreme Lord. So this is now part of Bhajana Kriya. So that is the next stage. Once they take shelter of a Guru, their devotion service becomes accounted, right, very well. And they, because now connected to Parampara. So this is basically, by performing Mahat Seva and develop the taste for hearing the messages of the Supreme Lord. The conditioned life of a living entity is caused by his revolting against the Lord. There are men called Devas or godly living beings, and there are men called Asuras or demons who are against the authority of the Supreme Lord. Okay, let's read this one. The servants of God ought to be respected as God by the devotees who actually want to go back to Godhead. Such servants of God are called Mahatmas or Tirthas, and they preach according to the particular time and place. The servants of God urge people to become devotees of the Lord. Right? All the disciples of Prabhupada or even very advanced, many other advanced devotees in ISKCON movement, they all urge to people to become God or become devotees of God. They never tolerate being called God. Right? None of the devotees tolerate that. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God himself, according to the indication of the revealed scriptures, but he played the part of a devotee. People who knew him to be God addressed him as God, but he used to block his ears with his hands and chant the name of Lord Vishnu. So anytime a devotee praises Lord, okay, they all very well know he is the Supreme Lord, right? And whenever they speak about that, Lord Chaitanya immediately block his ears and say, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. A human being can never be compared to God. That's how he says. Interestingly, for the non-devotees, he wouldn't do the same. For Jagai Madai, he showed Vishnu Chakra and he's about to kill them. And the other pastime I was hearing yesterday in our class was so one what's his name? I forgot. So when Sriva Sangan, the pastimes of Sriva Sangan were happening every day. One of his localite, he becomes very envious of Srivas for his he wouldn't allow anybody. Srivas, it's a very closed kirtaniya that goes on every day. So so he becomes very envious and he tries to put all the Durga paraphernalia outside his home. And tries to insult Srivas Thakur by saying that what happens in this Sriva Sangan is that they actually do Kali Puja and eat meat and drink wine. He puts all those bottles and all outside his home. In the morning, as soon as Srivas Thakur opens his door, he sees all of this Kali paraphernalia. And already there are hundreds of people gathered trying to see what is happening there. And he tells them, hey, see, this is what I actually do. But nobody really believes Srivas does that because they all have full faith in Srivas' purity. And immediately somebody would order, hey, clean this all up. And the place is cleansed and everybody goes to their place and nobody really trusts that Srivas does anything like that. But that person, Gopal Chapla, he's the one who puts that all this Kali Puja paraphernalia. Gopal Chapla, he does it, he silently stays back, but because he offended a devotee, Lord was so upset with him. And this person, because of his offense, he gets leprosy, white leprosy. and body starts completely getting affected, and he was thrown out of the village. But he tries to always, he has faith in Lord Chaitanya, some faith in Lord Chaitanya. He always, comes back to Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He has Kaviraj Goswami appreciates his simplicity of heart. He has still faith in Lord Chaitanya that he can be saved by if he shows mercy. So he goes to Lord Chaitanya and asks Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please kindly, you forgive Jagai Mother. So many people are saved by you. I agree that I made a mistake. Please forgive me. To that he says, no, you are condemned to live for trying to insult a great devotee. You are condemned to live in this suffering for millions of lives. And in that, he agrees that he is the personality of God, and he actually was so upset with his behavior. But later on, he becomes milder to him, and basically goes ask him to go take shelter of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur would forgive him, and he gets cured after that. But yeah, so whenever he meets non-devotees, he actually shows his real, his full potency. The servants of God come to propagate God consciousness, and intelligent people should cooperate with them in every respect. By serving the servant of God, one can please God more than by directly serving the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servants are properly respected, because such servants risk everything for the service of the Lord and so are very dear to the Lord. This is the reason Lord wants, Lord very much cares for his devotees or servants. Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita 1869 that no one is dearer to him than one who risks everything to preach his glory. So it's very important to understand this. By serving the servant of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus one becomes qualified to hear the glories of the God. And the person who is given respect should not think that he deserves that. He's only getting that only on behalf of Lord. Otherwise, he doesn't qualify for anything. He should very much understand that, and he understands that. And if he deviates from that, that is the beginning of his fall. Because Lord would not tolerate pride in the heart of a devotee. Srinvatam Swakatah Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Vidyantasto hi abhadrani Vidhunoti Suhrisatam. Please read.
Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul, in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted.
Very nice. Thank you. Who's speaking there?
Prabhuji, this is Sayamrita.
Nice, Sayamrita. Thank you. Yeah, so this is the next stage. Now he performed, the devotee come to the stage of performing bhajana kriya. Once you perform, from your side you perform bhajana kriya, what does Lord do from within the heart? He cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages. You have developed Shraddha, you are taken Guru Ashraya, and now you are performing bhajana kriya sincerely every day. Right? Now, Lord, being pleased with your desire to glorify him, he from the heart cleanses the material desire for material. This is the only problem all of us have, the desire to enjoy from the heart. This is the key problem everybody has in this material existence. The desire to enjoy, that is the problem, sense gratification. That is the reason for the austerities we perform and everything. So this is Anardha Nivriti. Right? This stage is Anardha Nivriti, where when we perform sincere devotion service, Lord cleanses the heart from within. Right? So urge to hear messages of Lord makes Lord basically pleased with us and cleanses the heart from far the propensities for material enjoyment. Right? Because the propensity to enjoy the material world is coming from time immemorial for a long, long time. So to get rid of that, we need to take shelter of the Lord. Messages of the personality are non-different from him. Whenever. Therefore, offenseless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken. It is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental song, which is as powerful as the Lord himself. Wherever there is offenseless chanting and glorification of God is happening, there is the Lord himself. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to God. Right? We're all happy here. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. Lord is just waiting for us to be back home. Right? Just like a father. Whenever his son is out, the only desire of father is when is my son going to come back? Because he loves his son. So one cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. This is the qualification. Right? The material sins are products of our material desires to lord it over material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Especially women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotees making progress on the path of back to God. This is a common problem for everyone. Many stalwarts in the devotion line fell victim to these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. Devotion service is far more powerful. It really helps. In many other paths, you can see like after performing thousands of years of austerities, still yogis fall down. It doesn't mean that we take it easy. It has to be done very carefully. Okay, now I think it is 3:50. We'll end here. We'll continue from 18th verse and try to finish this chapter next week. So this now we are in the Anardha Nivriti stage. So we'll complete other stages in the next few verses. These are the overall stages. Satam Kripa Mahatseva Shraddha Gurupada Shaya Bhajan Kriya Bhakti Anardha Nivriti Nishta Ruchi Asakti Bhava Prema Darshana of the Lord Harer Madhurya Anubhava, experiencing the mellows of pure devotional service with the Lord. So we'll discuss the next in the next class. Thank you all very much. If you have any questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, we'll end here. I have to leave also today. I will leave for now. Thank you all very much. We can discuss if you have any questions in the next class.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Very good.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.